The year is 1999. I was 10 years old, and while everyone was watching Friends, listening to Sandstorm, and worrying about Y2K,
a worldwide crisis,
we got some of cinema's most unforgettable films jammed into just one calendar year. 1999 marked a turning point in a lot of ways. It was the dawn of a new millennium, the Twin Towers were still standing, and film was about to go digital. But before it did, Hollywood delivered an exceptional box office of cult classics and modern masterpieces. These are the films that defined a generation. Everyone talked about for years, and we're still discussing to this day. Let's rediscover what made these movies from 1999 so iconic. But before we get started, like this video, hit the subscribe button, and consider joining the channel. Channel members get exclusive access to Filmmaker Alchemy, behind-the-scenes lessons and insights into the business of video production. Learn how to turn your content into gold. Released on February 19th and directed by Mike Judge, Office Space epitomized 90s Gen X humor and apathy.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Peter Gibbons works a soul-killing job at Initech, where everything is fluorescent lights, annoying bosses,
Hello, Peter. What's happening?
and pointless paperwork. His girlfriend drags him to a hypnotherapist who puts him into a relaxed trance, but the therapist dies mid-session, so Peter stays in this weird state of total calm. Instead of stressing about work, he just stops showing up.
Well, it looks like you've been missing quite a bit of work lately.
Well, I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
Oddly enough, his honesty and confidence get him promoted. Meanwhile, his coworkers Samir and Michael Bolton are about to be laid off after a pair of consultants come in.
What would you say you do here?
The three of them team up and install a tiny virus that's supposed to siphon fractions of a cent from every company transaction into their own account. Of course, it goes wrong and pulls in way more money than planned, putting them on the edge of prison.
Oh, shit.
Fun fact about that iconic red stapler, Swingline didn't actually make a red stapler when the movie came out. The prop team painted one so Milton's obsession would stand out. After the movie blew up on DVD, people kept asking for that exact stapler, so Swingline eventually started producing a real red version because of the movie.
Good things can happen in this world. I mean, look at me.
Released on March 31st and directed by the Wachowskis, The Matrix redefined the world of visual effects. Neo is a bored computer programmer who senses something is off about the world. He's contacted by Morpheus, a mysterious figure who believes Neo is the One. Neo learns the truth that reality is a simulated world built by machines and humans are actually plugged in and harvested for energy. Morpheus and his crew pull Neo out of the simulation and train him to bend its rules. As Neo grows stronger, the machines fight back through agents, especially Agent Smith. The whole thing builds to Neo unlocking his full potential and seeing the code for what it is, finally becoming the One and pushing the rebellion forward. I remember seeing the posters in cinemas for The Matrix.
So you're here to save the world.
And even at a young age knew it was a movie I had to see. Released on May 7th and directed by Stephen Sommers, The Mummy redefined action comedy and recaptured the spirit of Indiana Jones.
If the occasion calls for it.
In ancient Egypt, a powerful high priest named Imhotep is sentenced to death by being mummified alive. Centuries later, in 1920s Cairo, a treasure-seeking adventurer named Rick O'Connell, a librarian scholar named Evelyn Carnahan, and her bumbling brother Jonathan uncover the tomb. They accidentally resurrect Imhotep by reading from the Book of the Dead. Imhotep comes back to life with terrifying supernatural powers and begins raising an army of the dead to reclaim his lost love and conquer the world. Rick, Evelyn, Jonathan, and a small crew race against time to stop him, battling curses, bugs, and hordes of undead. The story perfectly mixes action, horror, humor, and a dash of romance, giving life to a modern adventure horror classic. Released May 19th and directed by George Lucas, The Phantom Menace began the prequel era of Star Wars and laid the groundwork for CGI in the new millennium.
Jar Jar is a key to all this, because he's a funnier character than we've ever had.
When a peaceful world called Naboo is threatened by the Trade Federation's blockade, two Jedi Knights, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi,
We haven't much time.
are sent to negotiate but end up fleeing with the young queen. They crash land on a desert planet where they meet a gifted boy named Anakin Skywalker. As political and mystical forces threaten to destabilize the galaxy, the Jedi work to protect Naboo, rescue the royal family, and confront a mysterious Sith Lord.
Never has a film been more anticipated. The line starts started forming outside theaters in Falmouth and South Portland more than 24 hours in advance. Not to see the movie, mind you, just to buy the tickets to see the movie.
If you were alive at this time, you would know that Star Wars merchandise was everywhere. The marketing campaign was off the charts.
You're Anakin Skywalker or Sebulba in a heart-pounding race for survival.
Both fans and general audiences were hyped for the new Star Wars, making this release a cultural milestone.
American Pie.
Okay, well, one time at band camp, I stuck a flute.
Released July 9th and directed by Paul and Chris Weitz, American Pie kickstarted raunch comedy for a whole new generation. A group of high school friends make a pact to lose their virginity before graduation. Jim develops a crush on his exchange student friend. The boys navigate the awkwardness, hilarity, and embarrassment of teenage obsession, parties, crushes, iconic humiliations, while dealing with friendship, peer pressure, and growing up. Jim's journey with Michelle becomes both funny and unexpectedly sweet.
Do you want to be my date for the prom?
Really? You seriously want to go with me?
Around this time, you couldn't go a week without hearing about that one time at band camp.
Tell me where you are, John!
Released July 16th and directed by Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez, the Blair Witch Project redefined horror and spawned an entire genre of found footage films. 3 student filmmakers head into the woods to make a documentary about a local Maryland legend known as the Blair Witch. Heather, Josh, and Mike start by interviewing townspeople, then venture into Black Hills Forest to capture footage for their project. The deeper they go, the more their map seems useless, and the more they feel like something is stalking them. Strange sounds at night, piles of stones, stick figures hanging from trees.
Place.
Well, how do we know it was people?
Well, even if it wasn't, I'm not gonna play with that either.
And missing gear push them into panic. The group turns on each other as they get lost, exhausted and terrified. The movie ends with their camera footage dropping to the ground, leaving their fate unknown, which is what helps seal the idea that the whole thing might have actually been real. Also released July 16th was Eyes Wide Shut, directed by Stanley Kubrick. This would ultimately be Kubrick's final film, and possibly his most mysterious. It follows Dr. Bill Harford, a successful New York physician whose comfortable life starts to crack after his wife Alice admits she once fantasized about another man. Bill spirals into jealousy and curiosity, wandering the city at night. He gets drawn into a world of conspiracy, secret societies, wealth, power, and masked rituals after crashing an underground gathering he never should have seen.
Who do you think those people were? Those were not just ordinary people there. If I told you their names, I'm not going to tell you their names, but if I did, I don't think you'd sleep so well.
From there, he's warned, followed, and threatened, unsure how much danger he's actually in. The whole story plays out like a psychological maze about desire, trust, and the blurry line between fantasy and reality, ending with Bill and Alice trying to rebuild their honesty with each other. But peel back the layers of symbolism and hidden meaning, and there may be much more to Kubrick's story than what it appears on the surface.
Is sex the only thing that matters to you?
I love you.
Released July 30th and directed by Trey Parker, South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut proved independent artists could still make it big in Hollywood.
Thanks for asking.
The South Park boys sneak into an R-rated Terrence and Phillip movie, pick up every curse word imaginable,
Eric, did you just say the F word?
Did he say the S word?
and bring all that new vocabulary back to South Park. Parents freak out, blame Canada, and things spiral into full-blown politics. The government arrests Terrence and Phillip,
This little scrotum sucker deceived us!
a war starts brewing, and Satan is waiting for his moment to rise, thanks to his relationship with Saddam Hussein. The kids end up leading a resistance movement trying to stop an execution that could literally trigger the apocalypse. It's crude, musical,
God has smiled upon you this day.
and way sharper than it appears at first glance.
I see dead people walking around like regular people.
I don't see anything.
Released August 6th and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, The Sixth Sense captured the minds of audiences everywhere with one of the biggest twists of all time. It centers on a child psychologist named Malcolm Crowe, who starts working with a troubled young boy named Cole. Cole is terrified because he sees ghosts everywhere he goes. They appear suddenly, talk to him, and often look the way they did when they died. Malcolm tries to help him understand the visions rather than run from them. As Cole grows braver and starts helping the spirits find closure, Malcolm begins to realize that his own life isn't what he thought it was. The story builds towards a quiet, emotional twist that reframes everything leading up to it.
Is anyone there?
This was another one of those films where you couldn't hardly go a day without hearing someone say,
Hey there, little fella.
I see dead people. I see dead people.
I see dead people.
I see dead people.
I see dead people.
I see dead people.
Released August 6th and directed by Brad Bird, The Iron Giant proved Disney wasn't the only animation studio worth watching. A young boy named Hogarth discovers a massive robot that crash lands near his small town in the 1950s. The giant is powerful enough to be a weapon, but he has the curiosity and innocence of a child. Hogarth hides him from the military and teaches him about friendship, choice, and the idea that you are who you choose to be. A paranoid government agent becomes convinced the robot is a threat.
See anything unusual, Hogarth? You tell anyone else about this, buddy? Hey, how big is this thing, Ranger? Been in the forest lately, Scout? Hey, where you going? Champ? Slugger? Hey, cowboy! Where you going? Where you going?
I'm going out!
And brings in the army, leading to a showdown where the giant has to decide whether to act like a weapon or protect the people he cares about.
You stay. I go.
The story builds to a heartfelt sacrifice that turns the robot into a legend. Watching the giant embody Superman still brings a tear to my eye every time I watch it, even to this day. Released October 1st and directed by Sam Mendes, American Beauty was winner of 5 Academy Awards this year, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Cinematography. When you win that many awards, especially in those categories, it pretty much means you made the best movie of the year. Lester Burnham is a middle-aged suburban dad who hits a breaking point.
We're having everyone write out a job description. That way management can assess who's valuable
and who's expendable.
Like almost all of these 90s characters, he hates his job, his marriage feels cold.
You think you're the only one who's frustrated.
I'm not? Well then, come on, baby, I'm ready.
And his teenage daughter barely speaks to him.
Why can't they just have their own lives?
I'm so proud of you. You didn't screw up once.
After developing an awkward crush on one of his daughter's friends, he snaps out of his numb routine and starts rebuilding his life in strange, impulsive ways. He quits his job.
Today I quit my job, and then I blackmailed my boss for almost $60,000 past the asparagus.
Buys the car he always wanted, starts working out.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
And looks for anything that feels real again. Around him, everyone else's perfect suburban lives are cracking. His wife is chasing success and an affair.
Smile! You're at Mr. Smiley's.
You are so busted.
His daughter is drawn to the odd but sincere boy next door.
Just curious.
And that boy's strict father becomes a pressure cooker waiting to explode. All of it builds towards a calm but devastating ending where Lester finally finds a moment of clarity, but it arrives right before everything collapses. The story is basically about longing, repression, and the quiet sadness hiding under the surface of suburban life.
It's just our couch! This isn't life! This is just stuff. And it's become more important to you than living. Well, honey, that's just nuts.
Yes, I'd like to order the Erica Picari dust ruffles.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Released October 15th and directed by David Fincher, Fight Club is peak 90s angst and packs a punch into every scene. The movie follows an unnamed office worker who's bored, exhausted, and stuck in a loop of consumer life.
We used to read pornography. Now it was the Horchow collection.
This was the standard character archetype for the 90s. He meets Tyler Durden, a charismatic soap maker who lives by total freedom and chaos. The two of them start an underground fight club as a release valve for men who feel trapped by their jobs and routines.
Welcome to Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
What begins as a raw outlet slowly mutates into something bigger and darker, a movement built around destruction and anti-corporate rebellion. As the narrator loses control, he realizes Tyler isn't who he thought he was, which forces him into a final confrontation with the most dangerous part of himself.
We are the all singing, all dancing crap. Tyler, I don't understand this.
Another iconic 90s twist that makes repeat watchings of Fight Club even better.
His name is Robert Paulson.
Released December 10th and directed by Frank Darabont, The Green Mile proved how emotional a drama could be. It's told from the perspective of Paul Edgecombe, a prison guard who worked death row in the 1930s, a place the staff called the Green Mile because of the faded green linoleum the condemned walked to the electric chair. Paul meets John Coffey, a giant, gentle inmate convicted of murdering 2 young girls. Paul quickly realizes there's something extraordinary about him. Coffey has a supernatural ability to heal, and every time he uses it, he absorbs the pain and darkness of others. As Paul and the other guards witness these miracles, they start to doubt Coffey's guilt and become torn between duty and conscience. Tension grows as they deal with dangerous inmates, moral pressure, and the countdown toward Coffey's execution. The story builds around whether an innocent man with a miraculous gift can be saved inside a system that doesn't know what to do with someone like him. By the end, the emotional weight hits hard, leaving Paul to live with the memory of everything he witnessed.
Don't put me in the dark. I was afraid of the dark.
The Green Mile was one of those movies that everyone talked about and told everyone else they need to go watch. Released December 17th and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, Magnolia is ambitious, original, and bursting with character. It weaves together a bunch of people in the San Fernando Valley who are all dealing with their own private crises over the course of one long emotional day. You've got a dying TV producer trying to make peace with his past, his estranged son who now runs a men's self-help empire, a game show host losing his grip on reality, a child contestant under huge pressure from his father.
I'm Stanley Spector.
There is the story of a boy genius.
Willa Cather, Thomas Kidd, Jean-Baptiste Clairvoyant.
A lonely police officer looking for connection, and a young woman spiraling from trauma. Each character is carrying something heavy, and their stories keep brushing up against each other in surprising ways. The whole thing is about generational damage, forgiveness, coincidence, and the weird ways people's lives intersect. As the tension builds, everything hits a breaking point that spills into one of the most surreal talked about endings of the era.
Never give up, never surrender.
Released December 25th, on Christmas Day, and directed by Dean Parisot, Galaxy Quest perfectly captures and pays respect to pop culture fandom. A washed-up group of actors from a once popular sci-fi TV show spend their days doing fan conventions and mall openings.
By Grabthar's hammer, by the sons of Warvan, I shall avenge you.
Their lives feel pretty sad until a group of real aliens show up believing the show was historical record.
We need your help.
They've built an actual starship based on the series and beg the cast to help them defeat a ruthless alien warlord.
You gotta move to the right.
Would you sit your ass down? You wanna drive this thing?
The actors think it's just another gig until they realize they've been thrown into real space with real danger.
The whole thing was just a misunderstanding.
We are actors, not astronauts.
You are our protectors.
They have to learn how to actually do the heroic stuff they only pretended to do on TV.
You're just gonna have to kill it.
Well, go for the mouth, the throat, his vulnerable spots.
It's a rock, it doesn't have any vulnerable spots.
As they fumble through crises, fix ship problems they barely understand,
How are we supposed to get through this?
and try to keep the Thermians alive, the crew finally grows into the roles they once played. By the end, they pull off a mission that feels straight out of their old show, proving to themselves that they're more than washed-up actors. It's a love letter to sci-fi fans, full of heart, parody, and genuine adventure.
Never give up, never surrender.
It's one of my favorite movies. All of the actors play their characters perfectly, each with some of the most memorable quotes of all time.
I was an actor once. Damn it, now look at me. Look at me!
Am I too late for Alexander's panic attack?
This episode was badly written! You have a last name.
Do I? Hey, don't open that! It's an alien planet! Is there air? You don't know! Oh, that's not right. No.
By Grabthar's hammer. What a savings.
I look back at 1999 and it feels surreal how many of these cinematic gems released in just one year. It really was the end of one era, but the start of another. And even after all these years, somehow these films have stuck around. They shaped the people who grew up with them, they sparked conversations that have lasted decades, and we're still talking about them even now. If you want to study film, look to the late 90s for some genuinely exceptional work from the old masters and the new. It was the culmination of a century of cinema and Hollywood at its finest. So let's keep talking and watching and partying like it's 1999.